The Dancing with Depression podcast is brought to you by CAS-CM, where CM stands for Content Matters, because content brings people together. Welcome to the Dancing with Depression podcast. I'm your perfect host, Adam Turner. Let that sit for a second. What happened in your head when I said that? Did you question it? Did you smirk? Did you immediately start scanning for evidence to disprove it? You probably didn't ask what I meant by perfect. You evaluated whether it was accurate. That's the power of a single word. There are certain words I've learned to be careful with, not because they're wrong, but because of what they invite. Words like always, never, everyone, and sometimes perfect. They don't all function the same way. When we're hurting, words like always and never feel accurate. They capture the weight of what we're experiencing. But words like perfect invite scrutiny. They make people scan for exceptions. They shift the focus from meaning to measurement. Different words, same pattern. The moment an absolute enters the room, our emotions get put on trial. Suddenly, the conversation isn't about how something feels anymore. It becomes about whether it's technically true. And once one exception is found, it can feel like the entire experience gets dismissed. Think about this. Have you ever said, I always mess this up? You never listen. I'm never going to feel better. And instead of someone asking what you meant, they corrected you. Now you're defending your vocabulary instead of expressing your pain. That shift happens fast. And it doesn't just show up in arguments. It shows up in relationships, in mental health conversations, and maybe most importantly, in the way we talk to ourselves. Because sometimes we're not wrong, we're just overwhelmed. And the words we choose in those moments can either lock us in place or leave space for growth. I see this most clearly in relationships because that's where emotion is raw. There are moments when I'll say, I'm fine. And what I mean is, I'm overwhelmed. I don't have words yet. I'm trying to regulate before I say something I don't mean. Now, luckily for me, Bobby has learned how to navigate that moment. But you can easily see that someone might hear, you're shutting me out. You don't trust me? You don't want to engage? Or she might say, you never make time for us to connect. In most cases, what she means is, I feel unheard right now. I feel disconnected in this moment. But what do I hear? Never. And instantly, my defense system activates. Now I'm scanning for evidence. One time, just one time, I made time for us to connect, so I can discredit what hurt my feelings. And just like that, we're no longer talking about what hurts. We're defending who we are. That's what absolutes do. They turn moments into identities. But here's where this really matters. This isn't just about a marriage. This isn't just showing up in relationships. This shows up in mental health too. When I was first diagnosed with depression, I remember telling Bobby, I am never going to be happy again. That wasn't logic. That was emotion. Later that same day, my best friend called, and I was laughing hard and loud. So what is Bobby supposed to think? Because what I said was, I'm never going to be happy again. But what I meant was, this feels permanent, and I'm scared. And here's the part that matters. When I said never, I didn't have language for what I was feeling. I didn't know about cognitive distortions. I didn't know about nervous system responses. And I didn't know about emotional reasoning. I just knew it felt heavy. It felt final. Sometimes we don't need terminology first. We need honesty first. We can learn from the frameworks later. We can learn the tools later. But first, we have to admit what it feels like. Because your feelings are valid. But the conclusion you draw while you're inside of them, those might not be permanent. When someone hears never, their brain shifts into correction mode. That's not true, you were just laughing. And guess what? Now we're debating accuracy instead of sitting with fear. Here's what I didn't understand early on. Absolutes are often a sign of where we are in healing. At the beginning of a mental health journey, words like always and never don't feel dramatic. They feel permanent. I will never feel better. That wasn't an exaggeration. That's how I felt. But as I and you learn more about depression, about trauma, about nervous system regulation, about therapy, about medication, about coping tools, that word starts to deflate. Not because someone corrected you, but because we grew. Never becomes right now. Always becomes this season. And that shift doesn't invalidate what you felt, but it gives you space to move. There's a difference between someone who says, this is impossible, and someone who says, this is hard. They're not different people. They're just at different stages of healing. Early stage, absolutes feel like truth. Middle stage, absolutes feel like emotion. Later stage, absolutes feel like signals. Sometimes we don't need someone to correct our words. We just need time, education, and support to outgrow them. Years ago, I read a book called Hung by the Tongue. The idea wasn't magical thinking. It was this. The language we repeat shapes our behavior. If I say I'm broken, I start behaving like someone who can't improve. If I say, this is hard right now, I leave space for change. Words don't create reality, but they shape behavior, and behavior shapes outcomes. A couple of examples. Instead of, I will never be happy again, maybe, I don't see how I'll feel better right now. Instead of, I've always been this way, try, I've struggled with this for a long time. Or, nothing will help. I haven't found what helps yet. That word yet keeps the door open. This episode isn't about policing your language. It's about understanding why we use it. Sometimes we're answering with the only perspective we've lived so far. Sometimes we're speaking from a chapter that isn't finished yet. And if you're early in your journey, if words like always and never still feel permanent, that doesn't make you dramatic. It makes you human. Healing doesn't begin when someone corrects your words. It begins when someone asks, what did you mean? Okay, this is the part of the podcast where most people say, don't forget to like, share, leave a review, and follow. And yes, I am going to say it too. But I like to explain why it truly matters here. But first, thank you. Whether you're listening for the first time or you've been listening since the beginning, your support really does matter. When you like, follow, share, or leave a review, it does so much more than just boost numbers. It helps this message reach someone who might be struggling quietly. It helps the right conversations rise to the surface. It helps bring in aligned resources, partners, and opportunities that support the mission, spreading understanding, compassion, and hope to anyone navigating their mental health journey. So, if this podcast has ever helped you feel seen, helped you reflect, or reminded you that you're not alone, give that same opportunity to someone else. And I want to hear from you. What would you like more of? Do you want more personal stories, more practical tools and coping strategies, more expert insights, more solo reflections? This space is for all of us. So tell me what would serve you best, and I will do my best to deliver. My inbox is always open. You can reach me at dancingwithdepression@yahoo.com. And remember, when it comes to depression, take the lead. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Dancing with Depression. There's a saying that hindsight is 20/20, which is often used to describe the phenomenon of being able to see things more clearly after they've happened. With that in mind, I encourage you to reflect back on past experiences in an effort to better understand your now. Also, I invite you to share with me your comments, thoughts, or personal exposure to depression. You can email me at dancingwithdepression@yahoo.com. Until next time, keep moving forward, and when it comes to depression, remember to take the lead. The Dancing with Depression podcast may include discussions of suicide, self-harm, trauma, and emotional distress. Listener discretion advised. This podcast shares personal experiences and is not a substitute for professional mental health care. If you need immediate support, call or text 988, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. For non-crisis help and resources, contact NAMI at 1-800-950-6264.